Would you consider yourself in SJW?
I don't think SJWs are real.
Okay.
Quinton Reviews is a channel, but going more into that, he reviews TV shows like Doctor Who and movies like The Thinning 1 and 2. And more recently, he's become well known for his series called Fallen Titans, which is about other YouTubers who have fallen Titans. And since I happen to talk about YouTubers, well, truth be told, I have known about Quinton for a while, as I found him sometime in 2017. However, I slowly stopped watching his content, stopping around the time when How Garfield Lost His Magic came out. My drop-off could be because his personality changed over time, from someone who liked making jokes to someone who feared making jokes. Just like Austin McO'Neill, instead of having a set guideline of what videos he's gonna make, topic-wise, they just make whatever they feel like. Such as when Quinton made a 23-minute Ghost Show parody video, a 16-minute ramble about dreams, and even an episode of The Toys That Made Us. Oh wait, Quinton never saw that Netflix TV show. Speaking of never saw, I bet you never saw this coming. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. But how does Skillshare correlate to Quinton? Well, let's find out. Skillshare is an online learning community of over 25,000 classes in design, business, and more for creators like you. Having a premium membership gives you unlimited access so you can join classes and communities that fight for your needs and New Year's goals. And I hope you didn't quit your New Year's goals already, Connor.
Hey, I'm doing my best.
And with that kind of attitude, Pufferfish will be well on his way to fuel his creativity in 2019. You know, to fuel his creativity, curiosity, and even career. Quinton, too, can learn a lot using Skillshare with such videos as writing for sketch comedy, write, film, and make content people share, and even how to stand out and make money on YouTube. With less than $10 a month, it's the most affordable in its class.
Boy howdy, if I was Quinton, I'd pounce on that offer. Oh wait, I can!
The first 500 people to use this link in the description get a 2 free month trial. So join the 7 million creators, like me, encourage the GAT by learning with Skillshare. Speaking of improving and changing content, something we'll note later in the video. Watching Quinton's newest video, you can see a drainage in not only a personality that he used to have, but an overall exhausted tone in his speech, so much so that he can't muster the guster to tell me about the topic he wants to talk about.
So those of you who want to understand what it's like to take that journey could maybe take some notes.
Well, partner, I don't think I'll lend near to that tale. But what could be his reasons for his sorrow? Could it be his very vocal opinions? Well, these opinions aren't really radical in any sort of way, since you've probably heard them before. However, the way he conveys, responds, and even inserts his thoughts can be seen as detrimental to not only his channel, but also Quinton himself. Now, Quinton has opinions, but can he handle them? Looking towards his Twitter page, YouTube, and even a podcast we'll mention later, Quinton has strong beliefs in, well, certain ideals. Such ideals include JonTron is a white supremacist, Ben Shapiro's transphobic and sometimes racist, and that Quinton hates Trump. On the podcast, aforementioned, however, if you want an audience member to understand your point of view, then you should use citations, as using strong accusations against someone will make you look bad if you can't back your arguments up. Now, I personally spoke to Quinton on Twitter DMs as well as a Discord call to further investigate. For the case of JonTron, when I asked him for specific examples of him saying, well, racist things, he first gave me quotes without citation. Asking again, I did get the 2-hour-long debate and a short clip of JonTron saying something specific. Well, rating this citation, I give it a 4 out of 10, considering I had to ask again to get proper links, and one of the links themselves is a 2-hour-long video. On the topic of Ben Shapiro, other than the memes about him and the one time that I saw him on the PewDiePie video, I actually don't know much about him, because I didn't really encounter him until now. When asked about Ben, instead of trying to find a link, he tells me to discover with a simple search, and mentioned that Ben once said Indians were cannibals. So with that, I decided to look it up, and what I found instead was an article by the New York Times published in 2000 about cannibalism. But since I'm not sure if this was what he was referring to, I'll just mosey on this quest and go further down. Pushing further, as Quinton mentioned Jim Crow laws, he said that he doesn't have any specific evidence on Ben for that note. Rating this citation, I give it a 2 out of 10, considering told me to go search it for myself. Okay? And for those of you worried, I asked Quinton if I could use these DMs, and he said it was alright, so there you go. And I wanted to try my best to get in contact with him, because he made this tweet earlier. Speaking of that, after Quinton made a hurtful tweet at a former YouTuber, now Twitch streamer Monkey Jones, Emp Lemon called him out, and had him on a podcast, talking about his point of views on certain things. This was detrimental to Quinton, as again, like he did with me, instead of providing citations or evidence for his claims, he just, well, says them. In fact, the quote at the beginning of this video is from the very same podcast itself. Links are down below. Also, there was more said after this clip, but I didn't want to play any of it yet because I wanted to see if anyone would comment that I took him out of context.
I don't think SJWs are real.
Okay.
I think...
How so?
To sum it up without talking about Gamergate, I feel like SJW has just been like a buzzword that's been passed around so much that it doesn't mean anything.
Bada bing, got you. Speaking of bada bing, Quinton likes to use his Twitter platform to talk. From saying things like PewDiePie shouldn't have had Ben Shapiro on his meme video, pointing out that he only live streamed a video to see how he can piss off Trump supporters, and even pointing out that he has an ED article about him, and shortly after, his tweet about the ED article also now appears on the ED article. I can imagine a loyal fan of Quinton following him to see updates about his favorite creator, saying, "Oh boy, I sure was a fan of those B-movie ripoffs. Look, Quinton made a tweet. I bet it's a sneak peek of his newest video." YouTubers Zealous Mark, Turkey Tom, Jar, and others all made videos around the same time on Quinton, and feeling targeted, instead of not tweeting, Quinton did. Presumably, he didn't really take their advice too seriously. Of course, he deleted these tweets and made a specific tweet talking about his response, so he must feel some kind of remorse for his actions, right? Instead of making a regular tweet, Quinton used something called twit, longer, with the first paragraph just saying that he feels bad that he got bad press. I can't imagine any other person feeling the same way as him. Going into the meat of the apology, which from now on I might just refer to as statement, he does happen to mention the people who made videos on him. However, he makes it clear, stating it twice, that he doesn't respect them at all, and never actually took them very seriously to begin with. You remember how I said that Quinton likes to have claims without any evidence? Well, in this statement he says that some of the commentators are known for going on streams and spreading Holocaust revisionism or blatant anti-Semitic rhetoric. And since he never specifically said who he's referring to, I'll do the only logical thing and assume all of them did that. Right here where he mentions that being dismissive was a mistake, I'd assume he'd realize to apologize to the commentators, but no. Instead of understanding that it's not his beliefs that made people dislike him, when in reality it's actually how he presents them, and making fun of people who don't share his same viewpoints, as seen here. I mean, he phrases the statements like he's some sort of martyr for these people, saying things like, "I've been criticized for" includes me stating that I support LGBT rights, and "If you expect me to apologize to transphobes and people who oppress dark-skinned immigrants, well, this post isn't for you." You think this responding to everything would be more of a apology instead of a "look how kind-hearted I am, and if you don't like my human-loving beliefs, well, you can stick it, by golly." The rest of the post is just about how Quinton says he feels bad about the situation. You'd think by now that Quinton would be able to handle criticism, or better yet, if Quinton can't, then he shouldn't be so vocal about his radical stances. If he wanted to respond to them, he could at least acknowledge he's seen their videos and say something like, "Despite your colorful language in your videos, well, I did see them, and I learned something from them, I guess." That may make him sound terrible, but better than referring to him as a small fish and making it twit longer, or instead of apologizing, you make them look like the enemy. On another note, if he wanted to respond to the ED article made about him, he shouldn't. After reading the whole thing and seeing the parts where he labeled that he was feeling bad and worried about the whole situation, instead of assuming, I went straight to Quinton.
And so he told me he was going through a few things.
So I urged him to seek help from someone specifically, as it's better to talk to someone specifically about how you feel, rather than your audience. But with all this stress, has it affected his content? Well, yeah, it did.
Like many of you, I initially responded to this news with an unapologetic shrug, because I figured that YouTube annotations was being deleted because it's stupid and annoying, and everyone hates it.
A notable difference between the old and the new Quinton can be seen in his thinning reviews, made about a year apart. In the first one, he has a somewhat sarcastic personality, and does put in a few jokes once in a while.
Logan Paul, a vlogger who has been claiming to be an actor because he was in this one movie, which he got a role in because he was a vlogger. Logan.
In the Thinning 2 review, it feels like making jokes hurts him as much as it does the audience listening to the jokes that are already in there.
And all around he just comes across like a cartoonish narcissist. In other words, he is an on-screen representation of what Logan Paul is like in the real world.
The review feels less critical and more just reading verbatim what's happening and going, that's bad. I don't like that.
Thus, a YouTube Red original movie was produced to achieve these two selfish goals. It's bad.
Further proving his demotivation is his stance on his most known series, Fallen Titans. Due to one specific joke, or I think it was a joke.
Saying that every angry gamer is trying to be James Rolfe is like saying that every racist gamer is trying to be JonTron.
As well as the numerous times where he states that he wants to cancel the series because of the backlash. But I've come to believe he's not going to get rid of the series,
Because he just made a new episode in the series.
and so his current demotivation is probably just from him focusing on the negativity.
If you look in his newest video, his cadence and rhetoric makes him sound pretty disinterested.
One of my favorite things about doing this series has been diving into the backlog of YouTube content and discovering works from 5, 10, 15 years ago, which were perhaps never intended to be viewed by someone so far into the future.
Now thus far we've been, well I have, been hating and dismantling Quinton from the bottom up. But what's the point of making a video about someone if you don't want them to improve? I mean, it would just be you getting angry at a person and then being surprised when they listen to you.
It's exactly because of things like this that most people don't have a positive memory of the annotation system, because its implementation started to directly ruin the experience of its users. That is, if you were on desktop.
One of the first things I recommend to Quinton is making a second Twitter account, as he can keep the main one to focus on his channel, like sneak peeks, updates, and general discussion about his content, and his second one could just be for his thoughts. Some tweets that might appear on there would include such beloved ones like, when did Markiplier and Jacksepticeye suddenly become hot? And even a cool rewind hot take flashback, go fuck yourself. Not only will having a secondary Twitter account unclutter his main one, but also having to sign out of his main one to go to his second one might actually deter him from tweeting his political views, as so far we've seen that it's not done much good to him. But I would recommend Quinton using more of that Twitlonger website, so he can fully express how he feels without being limited by Twitter's original very low word count. In his Thinning 2 review, Quinton mentioned how much he hates Trump, and he gave a reason why in this podcast he was in.
Let me explain to this. Okay, for one, the reason I mentioned Donald Trump in that review is because I was making fun of the movie for being a bad Trump film. And then, my audience has tended to want me to be honest with them. And I didn't want people thinking that I was a Trump supporter, so I was just like, I'll just say, hey guys, so I don't like Trump.
Because many people didn't like how he inserted his beliefs into his content.
I'm not angry, I'm disappointed movie. So, here's the thing. I fucking hate Trump. He embarrasses me every day.
So having this bit in his review actually causes whiplash because it doesn't really organically fit into the dialogue. So to show proactive change, he can just go into the YouTube editor and cut out that part.
I'm not angry, I'm disappointed movie. But on that note, I feel like if this is a movie about Trump, they're doing a bad job. You get the feeling this was written like late November 2016.
And he can also leave a comment explaining why the controversial section is gone. And going back to opinions, I'd suggest Quinton to have a bookmark folder, so in case that Quinton wants to get into another hot debate, he can just pull up this folder and cite evidence for his claims. Speaking of claims, Quinton wholeheartedly claims that he hates his grade A under A video, stating that, I wouldn't have made the video if I knew people would watch it. Not a very good stance on his opinions, but he could just, unlist those videos if he doesn't like them that much. And he could either edit or make a new comment to explain why he unlisted them. And I think because these videos make him cringe so hard, I think he can manage not having 2 videos that cause him so much grief, even though they have about 4 ads in them. He has taken down his video about PewDiePie vs. T-Series, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary that his grade A video is gone too. I privated all of my old cartoon reviews since after I rewatched them, turns out they really just cluttered up my channel, and the videos themselves just feel like I was listing facts without any actual input. I may have lost some views on my channel, but I'd rather keep up content that I want people to see. So being flexible in terms of unlisting and privating is a good thing. One last thing about the T-Series video. As mentioned in the podcast,
I didn't really realize it was that controversial that I took down a re-upload of my own video. And I guess I've thought about maybe at a time where I'm not getting a lot of heat of releasing some of those claims because it was just 2 of them. But I feel like I don't want to do it at a point where like everyone's actively going after me because I don't want that to be the reason why I'm doing it.
he should just go ahead and unstrike those videos who are just archiving his video. It would be the nice thing to do. Another thing he can work on is his style, as his visuals are nothing more than the video without any graphics to make him stand out at all. Speaking of a secondary Twitter account, Quinton can also make a secondary YouTube channel. It's clear that he wants to talk about topics outside of TV shows, and it doesn't make too much sense to have a ramble-gramble about dreams on his main channel, considering he mostly talks about TV shows. And speaking of grumble bobble, is jump cuts. Usually you can avoid this by just cutting to other footage, but apparently Quinton just likes keeping them in. Leaving in jump cuts makes you seem less organized, less coherent, and shows how long you can say a sentence without stopping for a cup of coffee. Besides cutting to different footage, you can also just cut in to live action footage. I do this to piece together my sentences, and also because I think it's quite fun. But speaking of not fun, is his thumbnails. Along with his varied content, there's nothing connecting in terms of style or appearance that when I look at his thumbnails, it screams, I'm Quinton. Now, I'm not saying that he has to change every lackluster thumbnail, but he could. Quinton has done a lot of no-nos and a few yes-yeses. So hopefully the yes-to-no ratio improves from learning how to take criticism, responding to criticism, and even improving to be an overall entertaining person. And the only way that I think Quinton won't learn from this video is if he thinks I'm dehumanizing him, not caring about his feelings or content, or just making a video that's just basically,
Hey guys, it's me again, Skeptifer, and today we're looking at another triggered SJW.
Oh. Thank you.
Haha, they're dumb. Alright, see you guys next time.
the dangers of a rising popularity on a platform like YouTube is something I fear. And having that clout makes them immune to criticism, as they would just call anyone who criticizes them haters, and that all these people like me, so it must be your fault that you don't like me. Which prompted me to make this video about Quinton, as I saw this in him. And I don't want anyone becoming a fallen titan because of their ego. And so with that, thank you for watching, and have a good